Hello, everyone. Always a pleasure to see you all, and some new faces, familiar faces, faces that I've seen before. Uh, and also very nice to read certain names if I'm not seeing your faces. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share something that I love for all these years. I've met some students from way before Zoom, way before even home, where it used to be purely focusing on meditation and then a tiny little talk. Now, sort of reverse, tiny little meditation and me talking a lot. Sorry about that. Uh, some people have missed that. So I'm thinking of probably reintroducing that again, where we will focus mostly on meditating and then a little talk. It depends on, well, do I have the time and do I have the energy? And do you have the time? Do you have the energy? Okay. Also want to say thank you to Nizam for stepping up and helping me to keep this going for hosting and sending the email and writing it up so nicely. And of course, Liz for having done it for so long and such, then having raised it to such a level that I can't. I have to say, Nazam, help me. um, and every one of you who's been supporting me with Patreon and say thank you very much. I never actually taken the time to actually say thank you, and once in a while I need to do that to let you know that I really appreciate it, even though I don't express it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Uh, Tonight's topic actually came up because boundaries is something that I am struggling with. And it's something that I sort of recently sort of been hit in the head to deal with. Um, because for me, it was the light sort of lit in my mind, in my heart, because of I am very confused about boundaries and then the Bodhisattva path. Especially the Bodhisattva path seemed to be saying, destroy, break all boundaries, merge yourself with others, exchange yourself with others. And at the same time, being on the path, uh, um, in your own life, in trying to do that, in trying to do it the way you think it means to break down barriers and not having boundaries, we end up, well, I ended up making a lot of mistakes. I ended up making, going, not fulfilling the intent of the Bodhisattva path. The intent of the Bodhisattva path is to benefit as many beings as possible. And sometimes we confuse that with pleasing as many beings as possible, but that's not what the intent of the Bodhisattva path. The intent of the Bodhisattva path is to benefit as many beings as possible. And sometimes as someone not trained in boundaries, I ended up seeking to please others more than to benefit others. Like pleasing others was this high, and then benefiting others was this place, because it was easier to please others than to benefit them. Because sometimes to benefit others, you may have to do something that is not pleasing to yourself, and it may not be even pleasing to the person that you're seeking to benefit. And that's where the blur the blurry understanding of boundaries and should we set boundaries? Should we not have boundaries? And if we set boundaries, how do we set boundaries and yet maintain the ideal of the Bodhisattva? And as I was being forced to encounter this, having to reassess my understanding of setting the intent of the Bodhisattva path, and also establishing healthy boundaries, believe it or not, from my understanding, the idea of boundary was completely against the Bodhisattva path. If you have any boundaries, you're not a Bodhisattva. That was my approach. And it was mainly not so much not allowing others to have boundaries, but not having boundaries with myself. And I, unfortunately, it took a very long time to recognize that I wasn't really benefiting others, but because I wasn't having boundaries. I wasn't helping them. I thought I was benefiting them by having no boundaries, but actually I wasn't helping them. So setting boundaries is actually part of the Bodhisattva's intent. And it's a matter of understanding how does the Bodhisattva set up boundaries in such a way that it is healthy for the Bodhisattva and it's also healthy for the ones that the Bodhisattva is seeking to benefit. And I of course try to remember the Buddha. How did the Buddha deal with this? I mean, it started with the Buddha, right? But with my understanding of the thing about boundaries and no boundaries. And from the stories that I remembered about the Buddha and how he related with others, he set a clear boundary. This is who you are, and this is who I am. And yet this idea of egolessness was championed by him. The person who championed the idea of egolessness is the one who set clear boundaries about that's you, that's me. And somehow, in my trying to understand and trying to be a Bodhisattva, I didn't see that part of the Buddha's life. And because it wasn't something that the Buddha directly said, okay, set boundaries. The Buddha never said that. In fact, most of the teachings was about get rid of your ego, get rid of your ego, get rid of your ego. And unfortunately, trying to understand that with my misunderstanding, I put in, don't have boundaries. That's what it seems to be saying. But life taught me, no, I misunderstood it. Boundaries is actually a practice of the Bodhisattva because it is a way of benefiting others. And that's what we will dive into. So that was a long introduction. I told you, tiny little meditation and a lot of talking. All right, so we will do a little meditation. Don't be afraid, it will be short. All right, so get yourself ready to get into the meditative state. Ooh, different bell today. So begin by having a clear intention. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to enter the space called meditation. Allow the intelligence in the body, allow the intelligence within your being that knows already what is the meditative state, and allow it to guide you. Let the intelligence in the body guide you. How should the body be if your intention is to meditate? And listen to that intention. Listen to the intelligence in the body. The legs, the spine, the shoulders and arms and hands, the head and neck, the mouth, teeth, tongue, the eyes, the muscles of the face. And by the time you reach the muscles of the face, have a sense that the body is in some way nearer to the meditative state. A sense of calm in the body, a sense of pleasantness slowly arising, and anchor your attention, your awareness in those signs. And while staying in those signs, gently bring attention to the breath. At first, just knowing you're breathing in as you breathe in, knowing you're breathing out as you breathe out, without trying to control the breath in any way, shortening or lengthening. And as you are maintaining awareness of the breath in this way, once in a while, you become aware of the signs generating from the body and sort of bring the breath into those signs and begin to experience the breath taking on the sense of calming, the sense of pleasantness. And you notice a slight shift in the behavior of the breath, going closer to the calming, going closer to the pleasantness. Take that as an indicator to make your final total commitment to enter meditation. And you could do this simply with your mind, or you could help sort of make this a definite sign with the breath by taking a deep breath. That's why you take the deep breath. That's why I take it. So feeling ready to fully commit to those signs arising, take a nice deep breath, hold it for a few seconds. And as you release the breath through the mouth, let yourself go, 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 go, let yourself go. As you let go, notice the breath going deeper into the calm, the body going deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into the pleasantness. And at the end of that exhalation, try to stay in the depth that you've reached as you let the inhale come in. Stay there, stay there. And let the breath return to its own rhythm and stay connected to the signs, now palpably present in the breath as they are present in the body. Then begin to be aware of the signs slowly arising in a palpable way that is mental in the mind, a sense of calming taking place in the mind, a sense of pleasantness arising in the mind. It doesn't have to be full-on bliss or full-on peace, but just signs of them that are specifically felt in the mind. And once you notice any signs of them, rejoice and relax. And gently bring your attention to the space in front of you at the level of your eyebrows, trying to stay in the ever-enhancing signs, the calm, the pleasantness, and notice the other inner signs pointing to clarity and radiance and focus. Welcome them, rejoice that they are present to whatever degree that they are present. And as you feel the sensation in the forehead, rejoice. And think towards that ideal way of being that is calling you, that is summoning you, that you are responding to. No need to imagine what it could look like. Just think of it, and whatever appears, just let it appear, but but directing attention towards that ideal way of being that is calling you. And express a deep sense of respect towards it, a deep sense of trust, a great sense of gratitude. And bring it to the crown of your head and let it be like 1,000 suns, the size of a point of light, shining extremely brightly and yet not blinding, but soothing, radiating love, radiating acceptance, compassion, wisdom. And as you bathe in its light, the calm becomes calmer, the pleasantness becomes more pleasant. The inner signs pointing to clarity becomes clearer, become brighter, and the sense of the capacity to direct and hold the mind becomes more apparent, more palpable. And just let yourself bathe in that presence. And if there's a mantra that comes up, just internally recite that mantra, feeling yourself bathing in the light. Keep relaxing, keep letting yourself just receive. And the last part, feeling the light showering you, radiating above your head, filling you with love, compassion, joy. Let it reach every single part of you. The different compartments that makes up the being called you. And I want you to think of a particularly difficult part of you that you find difficult to deal with. And there's no need for you to think of it as needing to radiate love, but rather think of yourself needing to recognize that it is present to radiating love for you. And let your lack of love towards it, let it melt by recognizing that it is not radiating hate towards you, but it is always radiating love towards you. And let that be for you an understanding of it. It is not there set up to hate you, to harm you. It's actually acting out of love for you, out of caring for you. And let that presence above your head descend through the crown of your head. Let it enter and rest in the very center of your heart. And let it fill you in such a way that you don't force love towards the parts of you that are difficult, but rather it helps you to acknowledge there is no part of you that doesn't love you. Okay, get ready to come out of the meditation. Make the intention to come out. First, witness your meditation, rejoice, noticing the signs in the body, in the breath, in the mind. And with the intention to arise, take a nice deep breath. And as you breathe out, let yourself reconnect with your immediate surroundings through your sense of touch, your sense of hearing, and your sense of sight. Yes, that was as uh, as advertised. 15 minutes. Okay. And I think perhaps an attribute of my methodology of how I teach, it's uh, it's always coming from something that I'm going through or something that I went through, and somehow I saw how the dharma was able to help me, or how I am trying to incorporate the dharma that I was taught. So my my big lesson about boundaries, and I have to say it was a bit of a what you call that? When your worldview is so set and you're moving through life with your worldview in such a way that this is it, and you're moving through life thinking, I have my worldview, it is correct, and I'm moving through it, and then things have to adapt to it, and after some time, you feel very confident that this is it. This is the correct way of meeting life. This is the correct way of understanding all of this. And then, of course, after signs that probably this much in terms of the level I'm able to be aware of them happen in life is about as big as this room, and then they're coming about can you see it? Between about this much of experience of hey, I don't think you really understood that. I have to say though, that's why I feel really guided, and I'm very sorry to I don't have any logical very reasonable explanation of what I'm saying. It's a mystery to me that I can only ascribe to using the term I feel guided. And I think that the reason I feel guided is because I could have messed up and completely gone down when I'm looking backwards to say, oh my goodness, this is what I've done. This is what I've been doing. How come I'm not completely destroyed myself already? And I think it's because somehow I'm being held. That's what I mean by I'm being guided, because it seemed like through my own efforts, I shouldn't be, I should have been destroyed already. If it was just to my own device, to my own effort, I would have been destroyed already. So something, either in whatever way that can be explained, whatever you want to explain it, something is helping me. Something has been sort of holding space for me, helping me not be completely destroyed. And yes, it is related to the idea of boundaries, because I was very convinced that the proper way of being a bodhisattva was to dispense with the idea of having boundaries whatsoever. And I was able to move through life, and probably I have a certain level of sensitivity. I have to say, I have a certain level of sensitivity that if I were to witness the damage that I was doing with my lack of boundaries, that would have destroyed me. I didn't have the personality acumen, the strength of personality to be able to witness myself doing such destruction and not be destroyed by witnessing it. So somehow, either some subconscious device within my own being was helping me, guiding me, so that I can see little by little, oh, okay, I could handle this much disappointment. I can handle this much disappointment. I can handle this much disappointment, until this little bit became a whole bucket. And that's where I found myself recently. Oh my goodness. The conviction that I have about the Bodhisattva the proper way of being a bodhisattva is to have no boundaries whatsoever. I mean, have compassion, let everybody destroy you, let everybody, have no ego anyway. If I feel a bit of ego, it is good that it's being trashed, it's being stepped on. So all this time I thought I was strengthening my understanding of the path of compassion, the path of expanding love. And I think probably what saved me was, even though it may not have been the way of understanding, the way of practicing the Bodhisattva's compassion, the way of practicing the Bodhisattva's love, my intention, I have to say very egotistically, my intention, as far as I know, was sincere. And I think that's what saved me, the sincerity of my intention. And I would also say the sincerity of the intention is what allowed me to be able to at least be able to see the little bit that I was able to see without it destroying me. Okay. And I think I encounter and I meet a lot of people who are on the path who have similar understanding that I have about, and sometimes I think a lot of people, they struggle, they find themselves struggling in where there's a part that seems, I would say, common sense, everyday common sense that says, I'm not quite sure if this is how this is supposed to be implemented, but this is supposed to be wisdom. So I'm supposed to align myself with this thing that's supposed to be higher in wisdom, but it doesn't quite seem to be meshing with common sense. So we have this conflict within us where it seems the understanding that we have is true understanding, and our common sense seems to be, oh, this is just the ego habit coming, destroying my beautiful wisdom that I'm acquiring. Okay, but because it is connected to common sense, we can't really entirely get rid of it. It keeps coming back. But that's the real wisdom. And what we think is the wisdom, the way we're supposed to be about the Bodhisattva, the idea of egolessness, the idea of selflessness. I mean, this very elevated, this very beautifully couched philosophy, and we are trying to align ourselves with it because we want to elevate ourselves. But the raw wisdom that knows that, hey, your understanding of this thing is not exactly the way it's supposed to be, but you have a sincere wish to understand it. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let it pass. Okay, but every once in a while it comes in. It's not exactly that way. That's not how it exactly was supposed to be. Yes, the best way to understand selflessness is that the self is complex. Complex in the sense that it's not some specific one thing that we can just, oh, there it is right here for everybody to see and say, see, that's what it is right there. The best way to understand it, that it is complex. We are complex. And then because of the complexity, it is sort of enmeshed with, you could say, experiencer, and that this this interplay of perceiver, perceiving, experience, this kinds of thing. The self is complex in that there isn't really, the complexity of it, the mystery of it is such that we can't really pinpoint and define it the way we would like to pinpoint and define things, the way things appear to be distinct, pinpointable. That's a laptop. That's a camera. It seems to be very pinpointable. So in the same way, there's the appearance of self, having this appearance of being pinpointable. And yet, when we really try to go into, okay, there's this appearingly very pinpointable thing, experience that is a self that is present. Since it appears pinpointable, let me see what is being pinpointed. And that's where the mystery comes in. We are invited into inquiry. And yet the inquiry doesn't take us to where we expect to be taken. It takes us into a realm where boundaries dissolve, where what we thought was the distinctive self is not exactly the distinctive self. But if we are honest with the experience, if we are honest with the inquiry where it's taking us, what we are seeing is a beautiful spectrum of so many different things, so many interplays taking place. Instead of simply accepting that's what we are encountering, a beautiful interplay of so many different things, instead of just accepting that's what is present, there is this nagging intention to find some pinpointable thing. Because from experience without investigation, without going into deep inquiry, there seems to be this pinpointable thing. There seems to be this Phuntsok. There seems to be this shell. Okay, there seems to be that, and if we just leave it at that, without drawing further conclusions, without adding to it, adding to what? There seems to be this findable Phuntsok. There seems to be this findable shell, and that's all it is, a seem to be findable. But instead of just accepting what is actually present, a seeming findable, we think there is a definite findable. So the idea of egolessness is telling us that this wish, this determination, this not nagging, but this insistent, the word escapes me, but it's a persistent, like not having patience. This nagging, persistent, guided by ignorance, misunderstanding, wish to find something. It's just persistent. It keeps on insisting that there's a findable. This disease of insistence that there is a findable rather than just the mere appearance of what's going on. Egolessness is pointing to that findable, that Phuntsok that can be isolated, where you can say, oh, there it is right here. This is Phuntsok, nothing but Phuntsok, and always Phuntsok. This is shell, nothing but shell, and nothing else is this. Okay, that's the findable. That will be the ego. So egolessness is not saying that, no, there's a much prettier Cheryl to find. There's a much prettier Phuntsok to find. That point that you find, it's an incredibly beautiful point. But what it is saying is that there is Shell is a Shell. Sorry, Shell. Shell is, that's what you get when you have your name. Shell is a spectrum of blisses. It's not just one thing. It's a spectrum of blisses, and that's what it is, a spectrum. Then in that sense, and this is, sorry, it's going to get a bit confusing now. So this, it's not supposed to be confusing, but it's going to get confusing. This spectrum of shell, which is not a findable, which is this beautiful interplay of so many different variables, this beautiful pure mystery, is shell. That's it. And because of that, there's an interplay, a beautiful spectrum of blisses that is Angela, John, Leah, Seamus. These are the names that are written, so that's what you get. Even though there is no findable Phuntsok, there's no findable Phuntsok the way I want a Phuntsok to be found, it doesn't mean that there's no Phuntsok. Okay? Just because there isn't a Mia that is a findable Mia the way I want to find Mia, doesn't mean that there is no Mia. Okay? So this findable that I'm insisting on finding, this is what they're pointing to as one aspect of, no, that ego, that identity doesn't exist. So this Mia that I'm insisting on finding, Mia is the Mia that is here is less that. So that's Mia less. Okay? That Cassandra less. That's Erica less. That's Nazam less. I got to say everybody's name. That's so nobody feels left out. That's Said less. That's Ferenc less. Okay? But it's pointing to first this discrete, almost boring, we'll have to say. This discrete, boring you, self, that we are insisting on finding is not findable. Okay? Is not findable. But this is also pointing to this non-findableness of a discrete Mia, a discrete Erica, a discrete Nizam. This non-findableness is Erica, is Mia, is Nizam. Okay? So how to incorporate, how to move in the world? When we find ourselves just repeating the habit of this insistence on finding a discrete, unconnected to anything that would be me, nothing but me, without anything else being this me. When we find ourselves caught up in that insistence, then the skillful way of dealing with that is with a brute denial. A brute denial. A brute saying the impossible. I don't exist. In the sense of, yeah, let yourself be trampled on. Let that self be trampled on. Let that self be abused. Okay. That is when we find ourselves in that, caught up in that insistence. But all that is to help us be a better witness of what's going on, of what is actually taking place. Our self, and whenever you hear that, the insistence of this discreteness immediately comes up and say, oh yeah, you talk about me, you talk about that thing. Yeah, tell it to me. Show me that thing that is nothing but that thing and nothing else is that thing. Yeah, show it to me. Whenever we hear the self, that's what we hear. But forget that. Okay, I'm gonna beat that insistence out of you. Okay, whenever it comes up, throw it away. Okay, but rather, what is actually happening? What is the actual experience other than that? What is the actual experience other than that? Without the insistence of imposing upon the experience anything other than the experience itself, without imposing on the experience anything other than the experience itself. I'm feeling miserable. I'm feeling happy. I am angry. If that is what is actually taking place, you're being honest. You are witnessing the spectrum that is you. Okay? But if you're angry and you're saying, I shouldn't be angry, and then you're holding on to this me that's supposed to be beyond anger, and you say, oh, that's the me right there, and then anger is taking place. That's being dishonest to the experience. Right? And in the same way with not having boundaries, I would have to say I trained myself to the degree where I was completely unaware of this. What would you call that? It's like you split yourself into two. There's a part of you that's supposed to be, beyond all that, and there's a part of you that's actually experiencing the experience. Okay, I don't know exactly what would be the psychological term for that, but I wasn't aware that this was taking place when I was being boundaryless, having no boundaries, thinking that I was an elevated being. I have no boundaries. There's no self for you to encroach. There's no self for you to insult. I was holding on to a fantasy. I was caught up into a fantasy of what was actually, rather than what was actually taking place. What is taking place? There is something that is happening that once it's over and I'm going to reflect on it, there is definitely going to be a part of me that's going to say, I wish to never experience this again. Okay. So I'm no longer caught up in that fantasy of, oh, I'm above everything, I have no boundaries, things like that. I can take anything. I'm no longer caught up in that fantasy. Now I'm with reality of what just happened. And the reality of what happened is like that common sense part that tells me it's like you have a physical body. If you put it to fire, it will burn. It was in fire. That's the natural thing that happens when you put this kind of body in fire. It burns. You can pretend that it's not burning. It doesn't mean that it's not burning. Okay? So the person who was, I'm exaggerating here, the person who was applying the fire to my hand, I was doing that person a disservice. I was making that person witness that that they are harming, and at the same time, I was making that person, giving that person a false understanding of reality that putting somebody's hand in fire doesn't hurt. Okay, so I wasn't benefiting the person. So I'm using this very abstract thing. Sorry about that, but you understand what I'm saying. When we, what is, first of all, what is a boundary? You could say it is the corpus. Oh my God, corpus. I've never heard that word before. I've never used that word before. It is the corpus of common sense relating. It is the corpus of common sense relating. Common sense meaning this is the nature of a mind. This is the nature of a physical body. This is the accepted nature of relating. Yes, these things will change over time, but in this very present moment, this is the nature of it. And we have to respect the present nature of it. To disrespect, to disavow the present nature of it is to almost, you could say, to disavow the fundamental nature of the fundamental nature of things that allows for experiences to be. Put it in this way, it is to wish for an outcome while engaging in the causes that have nothing to do with that outcome. It seems like what I've just said, they don't seem to connect. Two, disavow the fundamental nature of things. And I'm saying it this way because this is more in the way of the only reason for seeking to understand this term fundamental nature of things. It's not for just some abstract exercise. It's to live life. To live life the way life is supposed to be lived. It's not just for some beautiful poetry that exists only in the realm of mind. Okay? It's our everyday interactions. It's your job, it's your relationships, it's going here, it's going there. It's eating, it's not eating. Those are the things that are our experiences. So the fundamental nature that allows for these experiences to take place. The way we engage life is we act for a result. I don't care if you're being selfless, if you're being egolessness, that fantasy way of thinking that I understand the Buddha when he's egolessness, but you're just caught up in fantasy, not dealing with reality. Egolessness is the very reality that we're living in. It is the very stream of your being. That's what egolessness is talking about. It's not talking about some fantasy thing, some abstract thing. Okay? You're doing the action of sitting here and listening to me to get an outcome. That's it. I am speaking to get an outcome. Not that I have in my mind, okay, I have this outcome that I want and I'm going to do this and then this is what I'm going to get. We have no choice. And I'm going to throw something that has the Buddha will accept, but it's the Buddha didn't say it. It was said by Krishna, okay? There has never been a time, and there will never be a time when we will not act and get the result of our actions. You could say that is the very definition of our being. We are fundamentally actors and reapers and experiencers of our actions. That's what we are fundamentally. That's what's always taking place. That's why I'm referring to when we disregard the fundamental nature of things, it is like seeking one outcome while constantly engaging in some activity that has no connection with that outcome that we are seeking. Because that's what we do. We study something in order to understand something. We don't study something without eventually coming out with some sort of understanding of it. We don't eat without some outcome of what the food will do to us. We don't think certain thoughts without some outcome of that kind of thinking will do to the mind. Okay? Whether we are doing it consciously or not, that's the nature of things. Okay? So when I disregard the nature of how relationships are, when I disregard what is my history, what are my psychological strengths, what are my psychological weaknesses, not that they are forever this way, but they are in flux, and in this moment, that's what they are presenting themselves as. When I encounter such and such way of relating, my emotional reaction is this. It may not be the most skillful way of reacting, but that's how I react. I may need to change my reaction, witnessing that this reaction is not benefiting this, and this reaction is not benefiting that I'm relating with, the one I'm relating with. But I have to acknowledge in the present moment, this is what is present. And this is what I have to deal with. This is what the fundamental nature of reality has brought truth, has brought into existence. That's what I have to deal with. This is what is in existence. This is what is experiencing the sacredness called existing. Okay? So that means this corpus of how I am, what my weaknesses are, what my strengths are, and to be aware of them. And to also take into consideration that just like what Nizam reminded us in the very beginning, the story of the Buddha. So after reaching enlightenment and after sitting under the Bodhi tree after reaching enlightenment, sort of going to contemplation, oh my goodness, who will understand this extremely simple thing that I've just discovered that is so incredibly valuable for everyone to understand? He spent a long time going through, and you say, oh, my former companions, they will understand. I will go to them because we were on the path together. Or for whatever reason, they will understand. And he finally encounters them. And of course, oh, Gautam, How you doing, Gautam? What's up? But the Buddha had undergone a transformation. And if he allowed them to continue to treat them in his regular way, in the usual way that they used to, it will not benefit them. They will not be able to perceive the transformation that is in front of them, because they are relating to him not the way he is presently, but the way he used to be. So they will be caught up in the past. So he had to set a boundary. Do not relate with me this way. So was the Buddha caught up in some sort of ego trip? Here I am, here you are. Better not treat me this way. But rather, out of compassion for them, out of wishing to benefit them, in order for them to see what is it that they are witnessing, rather than what they witnessed being caught up in the past, what they used to know before. You have to set the boundary. You have to stop them. Basically saying, be present with what you're witnessing. Be present with what you are now being shown that you're capable of achieving. Okay. So basically setting the boundary, but putting a boundary between their ignorance and their capacity to be present. And it seems like he was pointing to himself, ego, look at me. But he was setting a boundary, putting a wall, putting to put outside that boundary their ignorance and be present with what is actually taking place. So when you set boundaries, you're asking the person you're relating to be present, in a sense of, this harms me. Maybe later on, I will wish to no longer be harmed by this, but at the moment, this harms me, and I have to bring you to the present moment of awareness of what is part of what nature has brought forth. Okay? Nature has brought forth someone who is sensitive to this and that. And I have to help you become aware of it. Okay? And when, especially for the bodhisattva, the person intent on the bodhisattva path, when we set this boundary, remember, you're not just propping up your ego. Okay? The ego, in a sense of the psychological destructive way that we understand it with the word ego. Okay? But rather what you're doing is benefiting yourself, also being honest with yourself. This is my limit. And I have to acknowledge it and be honest with myself. And I have to communicate this to you. This is my limit of how we can relate, how we should be relating. Okay. When we are doing this with the bodhisattva intent, we are helping each other to overcome our difficulties, to overcome our weaknesses, and also to benefit each other. And it seems like, the way I thought it was, something, it seems to be connected to compassion when we allow people to do certain things. I mean, there are souls, sorry about using that word, but we understand it. We are Western people. We're not completely, oh, use the word soul. We know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. There are certain souls that are childlike, and we treat them like children. Like they don't quite, it's not easy for them to quite grasp the idea of boundary yet. So we have to slowly introduce that to them. There are souls that are like that are not as evolved. But the point to get to with all that talk, which is over what I'm supposed to be talking, the whole point is to understand that you, as people who aspire to the Bodhisattva path, it is the compassionate thing to do to have boundaries. And sometimes it might, because of training or trying to align ourselves with compassion, trying to be as compassionate as possible, it seems to go against compassion to have boundaries. But even though it is difficult for some people, and that's your training, setting up boundaries is your training as a bodhisattva. And it is helping you to be honest with reality as it is, so that we can progress, and also to benefit the other person, so that allowing this door, this lack of boundaries to be experienced by the other person constantly, we are holding that person back. Because that door is not a door to that door that we open without that lack of boundary that we set with that person is basically a gate to standing still as far as evolving is concerned. They're not evolving. We're not helping them evolve. We are making them static in their evolution. Okay. It may be difficult for you to do because you're trying to be compassionate. But focus on the intention of the Bodhisattva is to benefit, not to please. And bear the difficulty that it will be on you because it seems like you're damaging your compassion. And know clearly in your mind that this eventually will benefit all of us. Keep reminding yourself of that, and that will help you. Okay. When I'm thinking of great people that I know, my teacher, it seemed like he had no boundaries. But that was the invitation of his compassion. But when I step one pinky beyond boundary, he made sure that I felt that wall. Okay? That wall was thrown at me to recognize boundary. And as a child, soul speaking, oh, he doesn't like me. Doesn't like me. But that was his compassion acting. I was strong enough to be hit by that wall so that I can grow in strength, so that I would not get caught up in some little tiny little corner, not growing anymore. Okay. So for compassion's sake, don't put people in little corners because we are lacking boundaries. We're not helping them. They're not being benefited. If they're coming at you at full speed and you know, oh my goodness, they're going to hit that wall real hard, It is for their benefit that they hit that wall real hard. What will that teach them? Stop running towards that wall. Now they've learned a valuable lesson. And then it will help them get to understand, this is where I end. This is where the limit of the stream. Egolessness doesn't mean that there's no boundaries whatsoever to me, but rather there's this beautiful mystery that has to be honored, respected. Our individuality is an incredible, beautiful miracle, beautiful mystery that must be honored and respected. Just make sure the nagging, intending, thinking that what we are encountering, what we are supposed to encounter is some discrete, finite thing. Okay, just make sure that's not part of it. Now, I'll say this very last thing. And this is something, actually, it took me a while to be able to actually say out loud, because the first time I encountered it, I found it offensive as a philosophy. But more and more, I think I can begin to speak it without feeling too, without cringing too much. And I hope you don't misunderstand it. Okay. The stream that is you is a blissful stream. And every once in a while, some wave comes up from that stream. And it seems not to be connected to the bliss. But this bliss is extremely potent and powerful, that the most powerful thing that it can do is to make itself think it is not bliss. And when it makes itself think that it is not bliss, it is not bliss. But it is a stream of bliss. The reason that you have to say, when it makes itself think it is not bliss, because that's its power. It makes realities. One of the realities that it makes is that not bliss. And when it is not bliss, it makes it perfectly not bliss. You experience it perfectly as not bliss. So don't go into that la 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 land after hearing what I've just said, saying, oh, the fire that is burning my hand, that's bliss. That's bliss. No. Bliss has created it as not bliss. So it is to be experienced as not bliss. But bliss created it. Sorry for laughing. All right. It is way past the hour. If you have any questions, very briefly, you have 2 seconds. All right. I hope that, I mean, I didn't really go into, okay, what is the boundary? I noticed that I didn't really go into that. But you understand what I mean, right? You already understand that. So it's okay to have them, and we should have them. And it's not going against nature to recognize them and to have them.
And one thing I'm getting from this talk, and maybe you can confirm whether you think it's a correct interpretation, but that a boundary, as you're talking about, is a claim of truth.
Wow, that's nice. I wish I said it that way.
Okay. So it's just a statement of truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're not talking about, how Buddhists are. When he said truth, what? Which truth are you talking about? The ultimate one? Forget about all that, okay? That is what is honestly your experience, okay? Yeah.
Well,
what's up?
Yes.
So this truth also needs to be expressed in a way, skillfully, hopefully.
Yes. Express, and you said it the way that it should be expressed skillfully. Okay. The thing is to always hold the intention. I may not fully know what's the path that will benefit, but I'm holding on to the intention to benefit and let that guide me. Okay. And there are some children that you will encounter, you will know. Like when I was the first time I met with my teacher, I was so fragile that he babied me. He let me overstep boundaries. But as I grew, he established those boundaries, made sure that I recognized them. Okay. And of course, that kind of teaching sort of flew over my head because it took me so many years, decades to come back to say, wait a minute, having a healthy boundary is actually part of the Bodhisattva's path. Okay. Yeah. All right. So happy to see all of you. Those of you who are letting me see you. And if you do have a topic, and if you want to dive deeper into this, where I go into, okay, practical, but because this is supposed to be more about practicality, if you want to go more into some practicality of boundary and ego and all that kind of stuff, then we can do that. If that's what you wish, we can do that. Okay. Or if you have a completely different topic that you think would be helpful, do that too. And before I forget, yes, there are many spots in the world experiencing great turmoil. And of course, I want to, our thoughts and heart and goes out to all of them. But I especially want to point out to what's happening in Iran right now. And I would like to dedicate the merit of what we've done tonight to help to address the thing that's going on in Iran. And it's a beautiful opportunity for humanity, not just for Iran. It's a beautiful opportunity for humanity. And I hope we are able to come out of this evolved. That's what I wish and dedicate this for. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'll keep you all here because just love seeing you. But it's past time that we leave. So we'll do a very short meditation, but just for dedicating. And if you can remember, just remember, how did it feel? Just let your mind go as you set your body into the posture. Just let yourself, how did it feel when I was meditating a moment ago, earlier? And just let the memory sort of reconnect you to the experience. And don't worry about if it's an actual experience or it's just memory. Just stay with it, whatever comes up. And eventually might be what you might call a palpable sense, a revisit of the experience that you are in meditation. You are aware of the signs in the body, the signs in the breath, the signs in the mind. And once you're aware of that, take a nice deep breath to commit. And as you breathe out, let yourself go into the sign. Let yourself go into the signs in the body, in the breath, in the mind. Let yourself go into the sign. And as we usually end, so feel a sense of yourself and know it's not just some discrete thing, just a beautiful spectrum. With no ends, no beginning, no end. And yet discrete, that's mystery. And you have that sense of me. And think how left hand feels me when right hand needs help. It thinks I need help and it goes help. And then feel all of us sitting in a circle. And let your mind drink this nectar of I am this discrete and yet endlessness. So in the circle with discrete endlessnesses. And in the same way that the right hand feels me, goes to the help of the right hand and the left hand with each other. You feel that sense with each other. When she needs help, it's I need help, and you go and help. That's the mystery of I and self. And in the very center, that very recognition becomes a ball of light. And the ball of light connects to each one of us with a ray of light. as it connects to each one of us, there's a sense of recognizing me strengthens us, or recognizing us strengthens me. And that ball of light expands, and as it expands, it absorbs us. So there's no appearance of other anymore, but we maintain that mystery, and expands until the entire globe is engulfed, is saturated, soaked, and dissolves into that ball of light. And as soon as we think of tree, we think of me. As soon as we think of river, we think of me. As soon as we think of mountain, we think of me. As soon as we think of neighbor, we think of me. We have that sense of me. And although we can play this sincerely, realistically, we maintain the attitude of discreteness. And being fully insaturated with this experience of me, the ball of light shrinks. And as it shrinks, it leaves like a glow on everything. And it comes to the very center again. And because we have this clear recognition of respecting one another's unique individuality, and at the same time, not blinded to our connection, that ball of light becomes just the rays of light, and they each enter into each one of our hearts. And we have this very firm conclusion: when I sincerely help me here, I am helping us. When I sincerely help us, I am also helping me here. And think of those who need your dedication, and make your dedication. Gyawadi Kyoken Sunam Yeshe Tsogzokshin Sunam Yeshe Lechonwe Damba Kunyin Toba Sho. And get ready to come out. Witness that you're in meditation. Rejoice. Notice the signs. Make the intention to come out. Take a nice deep breath. And as you breathe out, let yourself reconnect with your immediate surrounding through the sense of touch, the sense of hearing, the sense of sight. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm not going to tell you what time it is. Thank you. Enjoy your evenings, rest of your nights. Thank you. And come back here now. You here?
Thank you, Phuntsok.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phuntsok.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Phuntsok.
much,
Thank
Phuntsok.
you. Way back then, this is the time where we would hang out, play some music, drink some tea,
I have my chocolate.
and eat chocolate.
And wait to get kicked out. That was the boundary I always push. Count on me for that one.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go to sleep now, yeah? Probably 3 o'clock in the morning over there.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Right.
Right.
Well, should I call it?
Okay.
How was the trip?
What was that?
How was the trip?
Great. I want to go back. That place, when you go to a place, it feels like a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that place invites you to have a vacation. It's not like the vacation where you're hectic. We gotta do this, we gotta do that, we gotta go over there, we gotta catch this. Did you buy this? Did you buy that? No, it's not like that at all. A real vacation. Even though I went there to work, but
That's real work, real work.
yeah, that's real work. All right then.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Phuntsok.
Thank you.